Welcome back. The Department of Energy has a new consortium that will work to help the agency incorporate artificial intelligence into national disaster response efforts. Agencies across government are working to use the new technology to help facilitate processes and allow employees to focus on high-value work. Mallory Barg Bulman is Research Director of Finance Process Excellence at Gartner. Mallory, it's good to see you again. What are we learning from the private sector about using AI for all kinds of different responses to emergencies?
Sure. Thanks, Francis. So as you said, the opportunity from AI is tremendous for government. We have tons of repeatable processes that are subject to human error. There's great opportunity there. But what Gartner found from a survey of 120 finance leaders was the biggest barrier for AI adoption was fear of the unknown. This is certainly relatable in the government. We want to make sure trust in government stays high. And so what they really found, what leaders found, was that making sure that there's transparency into the decisions that AI makes. You can use this through AI explainable software, but also transparency in the process. Companies were finding that when they included stakeholders in the decisions to use AI, it really made a difference in the long run.
What does that mean in a public sector setting? Transparency to whom? Not just to the decision makers in the room, I suppose, but decision makers to the customer, or transparency to the customers and transparency to the taxpayers important also, I would imagine.
That's exactly right. And, further, as you know, I started my career at GAO. And so you want to make sure also you have auditability for federal decisions. And when you have transparency in how the decisions were made, why the decisions were made, and really a paper trail, you have clear auditability of AI. You also do have accountability to the taxpayers as well as to the Congress and the agency leadership.
One of the things that I haven't talked a lot about with folks who are implementing artificial intelligence is that point that you just made about the fact that it's auditable. What does that look like? And do you audit AI and the processes that you use it for any differently than you'd audit financial records or anything else?
I think it comes down to a couple different things. One is making sure that there is a clear paper trail of decisions that are made and clear visibility into the data that are being used for those decisions. The last piece I would say is to recognize that AI at its core is also a people issue. When companies, just like the government, are thinking about using AI or robotics, you want to make sure that you have people in place who are responsible for managing and supervising those decisions. You want some human accountability into the decisions that are being made. And so HR, the people leadership really needs to be part of these decisions. They're not just technological decisions.
All right, you used another phrase a moment ago that I want to ask you about, and that is the term repeatable processes. And it strikes me you're laying the groundwork there to introduce robotic process automation into the artificial intelligence discussion. What's the integration look like, and what's the private sector learning from that integration process, Mallory?
Yeah, so robotics are being used throughout the private sector. They're not being used as frequently as we might imagine, though, at this point. And I think one of the reasons that Gartner is seeing is robotics are a case where it's better to go slow to go fast. We saw with one processing company, it's a 10,000 person company based in the US, and they really wanted to make sure that they were using RPA. What they really needed to do was start with a couple discrete processes. These are processes that happen all the time, that are repeatable, that are subject to human error. So there's great cost savings of doing it. And using that as a way to demonstrate the value and really test the usability of robotics, you don't need to automate a whole end-to-end process from the start. You want to make sure that you start small, and then that'll help you go fast in the long run.
About 30 seconds left, Mallory. That's exactly what agencies in government are doing with RPA so far. And at what point, though, do you scale something like that?
Sure, I think it depends. It depends on what the goal is. If the goal is really, as we started to talk about, moving staff from low value to high value work, you need to know what that breaking point is within the agency. You want to involve human capital leadership and make sure that there's a clear vision of what is that low value work that can be automated and can be strategically, used technology.
Mallory, thanks very much. It's great to have you on as always.
Thanks very much, Francis.